Together we are but first coffee. Susie's just our host, but what matters most is we are a team. Together we are all safe here, and so are you. Among friends and mods we are safe. We talk about trauma, break down drama of life, death, happy or sad, even mad. We discuss it all here. Together we will thrive, not just survive. We will dry each other's tears, celebrate big or small wins, and chase away the fears. Together we fight cults or fight addictions. If not with experience, with love, and we don't judge. Please understand, this is a safe place to land. Please understand, you're not alone. This is a safe place to land. Together we thrive, not just survive. We will dry each other's tears, celebrate big or small wins, and chase away the fears. Because we are but first coffee, and Susie welcomes us all here. Together we are but first coffee, and Susie.
Hey, everybody. It's good to be back. Seems like it's been forever, but we are here. So, how's everybody doing? I see a few people are coming in. It'll probably take a little bit for them to get on in here. So, I see. Hey, Patty. Good to see you. So good to see you, Ben. Good to see you too. Yes, AB's in the back, y'all. AB is in the house. Jersey's back there too. Absolutely. She'll be starring those comments. So if you all have comments or questions, please put those in the chat. If you would, put a Q or something before the questions, because we really plan on taking some questions tonight, and it makes it easier to find them if they're marked, if the chat starts getting busy. So let's see here. Guys, I did my nails today and they're too long, so I am struggling with getting my mouse to move. So if I miss you, it's because I can't get my mouse to move. I need to hook up my wireless mouse instead of doing all this with my fingers trying to get it to work. So anyway, I'm trying to see if I missed anybody else. Ben's here. Good to see Ben. Toby, good to see you too. So, wow, looks like we've got a few coming in. I'm going to go ahead. Corvette Girl is here. Good to see you too, listening and working. So, anyway, let's see here. Sorry, I'm trying to. Me and the mouse are not working. So, anyway, Eileen Bradley is here. Good to see you too. So, anyway, how's everybody doing? Everybody doing okay? Ben's looking for a set of readers. I could probably get you some. I don't know. Most of the readers that I had, it was so ridiculous, right? I wore glasses, but my prescription glasses were not strong enough to let me see the stuff on the and to see everything on the screen or to look at my notes and stuff. So I was buying readers and I would just wear those whenever I was going live. And so I had progressed to the 4.0 readers, which is about the strongest that you can find, and still couldn't see. So yeah. So a few weeks ago I had my eyes both operated on, and they're doing pretty good right now. I do have an upcoming surgery on my right eye that I need to get booked, but I've just got so much going on. I just, it's hard to it's hard to make time. So, I'm really excited for tonight's live though. First of all, I've missed you guys. I really have. I mean, whenever I'm gone for a few days, it's just like, ugh, got to get back out there and see my people, right? Mark's like, how many of your people were there tonight? And I'm like, don't make it sound like a cult. And then he's just laughs. Now he's starting to call you friends. He's got over it, but anyway, he's so funny about it. But yeah, I'm really excited to see everybody coming in, and yeah, um, I am gonna probably have to take a little bit of time off in the next few weeks. Um, I had posted something that said that I had had a biopsy, and I haven't got the results back from that, but it was a it's a gynecological biopsy. They did 2 actual biopsies a couple of days ago, and I'm still waiting on those results, but they already have said that I'm gonna have a hysterectomy. So if I am missing for a few days, that'll probably be it, but I will try to, you know, get somebody to post something if I don't get to it, if I don't feel like it or whatever. But I always heal so fast. I mean, my doctors are just amazed at how fast I come back from surgery, so I don't expect to be gone for very long. But you might get a couple of those videos like when I started 2 years ago, y'all. We just celebrated our 2-year YouTube birthday or anniversary or whatever on Valentine's Day, so we are 2 years old now. But anyway, so so yeah, I might have to sit in my bed or on the couch or something to do some, keep my feet up, that kind of thing for a few days, but I don't wanna miss 'cause I I get lonely. I get really lonely. I don't know if you all watched the other night. It's been 2 or 3 nights ago now, but, Mental Health Matters, which is Keela's channel, she and John did an amazing live on, whenever you're, kind of secluded, when you're, at home and not of your necessarily of your choice, like health reasons or whatever have kinda kept you secluded. And so anyway, I really, really enjoyed that live a lot, and I thought about you all because I thought, boy, there's so many people in her chat that were talking about, that they're like that they, are kind of homebodies or even worse than that, even like literally have anxiety if they um, try to leave their house or anything. And anyway, whenever for about almost 2 years, I was like that whenever I was going through chemo and everything, and so it was one thing that kinda did help was it would have been the not this last time that I had chemo, the time before that, the second time that I had chemo, it would have it was kind of during all the COVID stuff, so I, told them, I said, "Well, COVID went by in a flash to me because, I was sick as a dog. I didn't know. I mean, I knew that, that everybody was kind of stuck at home, but it really didn't affect me any more than what it already was." So anyway, all of that, I'm not really even sure why I said it. But anyway, I guess just a health update. I might have to or I am gonna have surgery. We're just gonna see when. So, but on a happy note, y'all, I am also very excited. I don't think that she's here yet. She might be, and I just can't see her. But we do have a new mod. Um, we are having Rocket Out for Life has joined our mod group. So I don't think she's here tonight. She might show up in a little bit. Um, but whenever you all do see her, you'll have to welcome her and tease her about having a wrench and everything. And my longtime mod, Marilee, has taken some time off. She stays so incredibly busy. She does a lot of mentoring, um, a lot of it with with Keela's channel, we're all kind of a bunch of us, are kind of intertwined like that. And so she does a lot of mentoring and everything over there, and it's just such an amazing thing. And we're gonna miss her, but and she might come back. It wasn't necessarily a permanent, you know, exit, but anyway, I do want to just tell her that we miss her, and so just she's doing great work, is what I'm trying to say. So, anyway, and then also I wanted to tell you that today is our part 2 of our chat with Analytical Blarney, or AB. And last week she talked about her experiences in a non-denominational church that, kind of church turned cult kind of situation. And she kind of filled us in on how it all went and everything until she actually left. I think she was like 16, something like that. She can correct me if I'm wrong. But anyway, she left that, and her parents actually still stayed in for a while, and then they got out, I guess, but they're maybe still in some, I don't know, something. But anyway, we're going to talk to her today about life after, like, you know, what how did that affect her life going forward? Um did it change her beliefs, her faith or anything like that? And if so, how? And does it make her extra cautious about getting in with any kind of a group, whether it be a church or even uh we talked about some MLMs and all that, or even like YouTube channels. I mean, she's all over YouTube, and I've wondered, did that make it? Is she extra careful? Is what I'm trying to say with trying to stay out of culty situations. So anyway, I'm excited to welcome her. So everybody, just be ready, and remember, if you've got questions, please mark those with a Q, so that they'll be easier for Jan to see. So I'm going to bring AB on if I can get my fingers to work. Hello.
Hi. Thanks for having me back.
I was excited. I was like so afraid. Like whenever when we cut off a little bit, before the story was over, we got, basically halfway through it or something. We got the first half kind of done. And
Yeah.
then I had like the next 2 weeks were completely booked, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm gonna have to figure out another day that I can have her on." And then I had a cancellation, so I was like, "Ooh, worked right out just perfect."
Yeah. Well, no, I'm happy to be back. And listening to your story, I want to tell you my heart goes out to you. So I am thinking
Oh, thank
about
you.
you and praying for you. And
Thank
if
you.
you need anything, please let me know because I'm always
I
here.
will.
So
Okay. I will. Thank you. I am
yeah.
learning. I really have. I have really started learning in the last couple of years to accept help, and to actually, like, if I need something, to say, "Hey, I need this," or something, which was never something I would have done before. But, people want to help is the thing. They don't just, they don't offer 99% of the time, they don't offer unless they mean it.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
I will say I don't say things that I don't mean. So
Yeah, I don't either. Like, if I offer to
yeah.
help somebody, I mean it.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly. And I take people for their word too in terms
yeah,
of until
yeah,
you tell me that I
yeah,
can't, or show
yeah,
that you can.
yeah,
But
absolutely. That's how I am too. So,
yeah.
how you doing? You been staying pretty busy this week?
Yeah. Like I said, I know that you and I have talked. I switched schools in November, so I'm
Mhm.
still trying to catch up as a sped teacher. And then my coworker, who I joined up underneath, who was my special ed chair, if you will, because we
Mhm.
have
Yeah.
hierarchies. She left right before Christmas, so it's now me. I'm the sped
Oh,
chair
yeah.
over two because I have the most experience to date. So it's been a little chaotic, but we're getting there. We're getting there. We're figuring
Yeah.
some things out. We're straightening it out. But I was kind of in that role with my last school, so but every school has their policies, so just trying to adjust and
My
yeah.
youngest daughter is a teacher at a school, at an elementary school here close to us, and, she's she knows Spanish for one thing, which helps,
Good for
but she
her. Yeah,
also is fluent in sign language. And so
I
that
am too.
kind of makes her very, sought after. And so
Absolutely.
I was
Absolutely.
learning it, but I kind of everything, I kind of forgot a lot of it whenever I was
Yeah.
going through chemo, and so now it's like having to start all over with. But every once in a while, if I see somebody doing it, not all the time, but I can like I'll pick up little things and I'll know what they're saying, or I talk with my hands a lot anyway. You can't tell as much here because I try to keep them down. But if you were like sitting, this is what I'm doing in real life. My hands are just like everywhere.
Well, you guys saw that in part one, so I did everybody a service and I'm standing this time so that
Oh
I'm not
goodness.
using my seat and talking with my hands because that
Yeah.
is absolutely me. But yeah, as I mentioned last time, I have a brother who has Down syndrome, and so he was
Yeah.
non-communicative for the first
Oh,
literally 10 years of his life in terms of he had basic
wow.
words around 6 7, but we mostly communicated with sign language. He was, I think I shared this, he was in the hospital for the first year and a half of his life because he has a
Yeah.
man-made esophagus. He was
Yeah.
born without an esophagus,
Oh,
and so
wow.
yeah, and
Wow.
so yeah, and I realized in the last stream I didn't preface that part. Obviously, children with Down syndrome don't spend the first year and a half of their life in the
Yeah.
hospital. I forgot to sort of talk about the medical piece of that component,
Yeah.
but yeah, and so we had to wait for him to like gain weight and stuff like that. And
Mm,
UNC did some experimental. So we kind of my parents had to sort of sign their life away on trusting
yeah,
some things
I
with the safety
bet.
system there. But what better team to do it under than UNC healthcare,
Yeah.
pediatrics, because they're the best on the East
Yeah.
Coast. So
Yeah. Oh,
other than, other than like Duke or again,
yeah.
I will say
Yeah.
that about North Carolina. We have some of the best
Oh, yeah, the East
hospitals.
Coast has got some amazing doctors and hospitals.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm very
Oh.
grateful for that. But because of that, he had a tracheotomy for a bit, and so yeah,
Mm,
I mean, and then we were in and out of surgeries because some were failed attempts.
mhm.
Because they literally took
Wow.
tissue from his stomach to build his esophagus. So
How old is he
um,
now?
he is 27.
Mark has a cousin, my husband, Mark, and I
My brother's
believe
name is Mark.
he's really? How funny.
Yeah.
He has a cousin named Chuck, and he has Down syndrome, and I believe he's 35. He's either 34 or 35. He is a mess, I'm telling you. He's
Yep.
got a girlfriend, and they are hilarious.
Hmm.
She's a sweetheart. She has Down syndrome too, but
Hmm.
they're both very capable and just, you just forget it, they're so
Yeah.
capable and just so smart and
Absolutely.
everything. It's a joy to watch. And they were
Absolutely.
whenever they were younger, they were real into, oh, the word just went out of my head, but the Special Olympics, there you go. I finally it came
Mhm.
back around. With all my chemo, sometimes words just disappear, and I'm like, "Okay, it's coming. I can see it coming back around." But,
Well, it
yeah, they were
doesn't
real
take
big in
chemo
that.
for the rest of us to do that, so
Yeah.
you're fine. Most of us do get
So
we blink on stuff anyway, so you're good.
yeah. So, I thought tonight that we would kind of pick up kinda where we left off at
Yeah.
where you have now left the cult and kind of pick up with that and kind of where
Yeah.
your life went from there because you've obviously come very far from there
Yeah.
and how it affects, how those experiences, how they affect your life today. And yeah.
Yeah, and I will say last time, as I told you, I took notes. I have
Yeah.
a flip. But I will say you mentioned patterns and you mentioned long and complicated healing process. You
Mhm.
mentioned who you trust and how you trust.
Yeah.
And tonight you added another one. How did this affect me going forward?
Yeah.
And I will say all those things are very relevant.
Yeah.
Which is why I wrote them down.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
so
I
I
thought they were kind of all the same thing, just different little, fingers, like, they're all a hand, but it's different little fingers of whole
Yeah,
thing.
they're all sort of, I like to think of it like a jellyfish in some ways,
Mm-hmm.
like they're all tentacles.
Mm-hmm.
And so while some are the same and some are synonyms, they can be very different. And
Mm-hmm.
so I like to think of a jellyfish because each tentacle holds, well, yes, they are synonymous, they are very different in some ways because how
Yeah,
that manifests in terms of relationships, how that manifests in terms of, even
yeah,
work relationships, like
absolutely.
in terms of who I trust or and I will say a lot of it has been trying to find my voice. And that took, well, I found my voice at 16 and many actually looked at me with admiration and again, like I said, finally
Mhm.
17. It
Yeah,
was a 16, 17-year-old progression, if you will, of
yeah.
starting to express what I saw, what was going on with my friend, like my best friend. And I was starting to communicate. And then it was 17 when I
Mhm.
like officially was like, I'd already started to back away. They already knew
Yeah,
it. And then I was like, this isn't gonna happen anymore. I'm not
yeah.
going back. But in terms of taking that forward, like I said, my parents never changed their language, if that makes sense. So
Mm-hmm.
they were still, even though they left, like I said, when I was around 20, 21-ish,
Mm-hmm.
and they said, they were like, you're right, this and that. They just went back
Wow.
into sort of something that was similar, but different.
Yeah,
And it became New Life. And so
yeah,
and they felt better because it wasn't an isolated thing. And as I mentioned last time, well, you just left one for the other, right? Um, but how that
hmm
manifests in terms of my own like sort of dichotomy of family, it's
hmm
been hard. Like it's been really
nothing.
hard. And and especially when they are stark believers in the
Yeah,
Bible in terms of taking it literally because
yeah,
that's what we're trained to do, right?
yeah.
And so the woman's supposed to be submissive, you know, until I'm married. My father's the head of the household. Well, I'm standing, like I said last time, I'm standing in my own house until you pay my
Yeah,
bills. I'm happy to send them over, but
yeah, absolutely.
you're not the head of my household. My taxes
Hmm.
tell me that you're not.
Yeah.
To be fair.
Mm.
And so, but that's his antiquated thinking, right? And
Yeah.
so, but that's the
Oh, I get it.
structure that I've had to, I walk a fine line, right? And
Mhm.
again, he's my stepdad, but like I said, I grew up with him, so I don't see him
Yeah.
anything but like my father figure. Um, and like I said, he legally adopted me, so like I very much see
Mhm.
him as my dad in many ways. But that's been very, very hard because I will say, much like Marilyn's story, underneath those spiritual structures, there
Mhm.
is a level of perfectionism and there's a level of demand and there's a
Mhm.
level of knocking you down so much to make you feel sort of inferior. Like
Mhm.
nothing that you can do
Yeah.
will ever be good enough. And I heard her say that one time and I was like, I could not
Yeah.
have felt any more seen, if that makes sense. Even though I was
Yeah.
already saying that in my personal life, if that makes sense to my friends and things like that. I was like,
No, but it does help when somebody else says it too, you
yeah.
know,
And
so
especially under the same sort of make and model
Mhm.
of, like I
Mhm.
said, hers was on a smaller scale, but
Yeah.
no less. If anything, in some ways, hers was way more dysfunctional, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because being more tight knit,
Yes.
there's even less escape, in many
Mhm.
ways, because there's such a
Well, I
hard
mean,
ground.
they lived there and everything too, they
That's what I'm
lived.
saying, yeah. And
Yeah.
so I got it on a larger scale, but it was the same pattern of, like I
Yeah.
said, trying to escape and literally just leave. You made a comment last time, leaving a church should be simple.
Yeah.
I've never
Yeah.
seen anything less simple, but
I know.
also the way of thinking, my parents still haven't left. And that
Mm.
has been very hard for our family dynamic.
I know.
Um, and so, like, so much so that I have had to lay boundaries of
Mm.
we're not going to talk about religion. Anything else is on the table. My job,
Mhm.
you want to know about, like, I'm an open book, as I think I have clearly communicated last time. I'll
Yeah.
tell you anything you want to know. But because the subject of religion was constantly coming up and it became, you don't have your priorities right. You aren't this. You're going to hell because you do this, this, and that. And it was just judgment after judgment. Meanwhile,
Mhm.
they're not flawless, you know?
Yeah.
So, but I'm not going to
Mhm.
disrespect them. And they know that because I do have, they raised me correctly, right? I have
Oh,
a
yeah.
higher level of respect. I'm not going to disrespect my parents, but I was almost being forced into position to do that, to defend myself because and then if I did try to defend myself, but politely, then it became Bible thumping.
Yeah.
Well, the Bible says this. Well,
Yeah. And how do you
and then
argue
you're
with the
just,
Bible?
yeah, and then it's just throwing scripture. There's no win.
Yeah.
There's
No,
literally
there's
no win.
no.
And so that's what I've been dealing with literally up until almost today. It hit a head around, I'm 41, so it took a turn in the pandemic in 2020
Mhm.
when I have Crohn's disease, so I have to be very careful about who I'm
Yeah.
around and
I do
with all
too.
the that's going on. And
Yeah, I have it too. It's awful.
oh, it's oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And so autoimmune, right? We had to be
Mhm.
incredibly careful. And I will say my parents were actually incredibly respectful of that. Like, because a lot of Christians were like, this is,
Yeah.
they were not that way. They treated it actually very respectfully and were actually very kind in that area.
Yeah.
But in terms of like, I got enough away out of hearing that rhetoric and feeling compelled to not have my priorities right and to put family first and this and that when I was constantly being put down. I
Yeah.
got up out from underneath that long enough that I was like, I feel free for the first time that I don't have to be
Wow.
around you guys in this like this constant judgment.
Mhm.
And so that took our family into another turn, if you will.
Mhm.
Because again, I found my voice and in a different way. I didn't realize how much I was still under their, I hate to use this word, but regime, if you will, like
Yeah.
their rhetoric and their
Yeah.
um, antiquated thinking and their family
Mhm.
structure for the sake of just wanting to get along and not trying to create chaos for my mom or my brother.
Mhm.
Um, but that's bullying. Again, when does church and religion become bullying, right? And I
Mhm.
feel like that's a learned behavior that I did not
Yeah.
see when I was younger, as I
Yeah.
said. And that was
Mhm.
learned from the church because it became hellfire, brimstone, everything in the church. And then that equated to what was being said at home. It was the same speak, right? So I was
Mm.
hearing I was going to hell here
Yeah.
if you don't do this, if you don't fall in line here. And then the home, if you don't do this, if you don't do that, if you don't. Meanwhile, I wasn't doing anything. I was literally an ADHD girl, like literally just trying to be perfect, but it
Yeah.
created, I will say now as an adult, a monster, like in terms of what I have to combat because I am so much a perfectionist now that it creates an insane amount of anxiety.
Mhm.
Um, because I
Yeah.
don't feel like I'm ever good enough. And I will say, even when I'm praised, because of what I heard in my home and because of what I heard at the church, I always think, you're saying this now, but what's coming next?
Yeah.
Because you feel this way maybe today, but tomorrow I'm going to be going to hell. I'm going to be this. I'm going to be,
Yeah.
and so it
Mm.
has set up a an interesting sort of system in my head, which has bled into probably why I'm single today, to be quite frank. but but also in terms of the antiquated thinking of watching my mom have to be a submissive wife,
Oh,
and
yeah.
because and yeah, and I'm like, if my
Mhm.
stepdad looked at my mom as if, and I'm not saying that he doesn't love her. Please hear this. I'm not saying that because that's
Yeah.
not the case.
No, I
He loves
understand.
her very much. But if he looked at her like the Bible says, like, look at your wife like Jesus loved the church, right? That's what the scripture
Mhm.
says. I can quote this all day. I had to
Oh,
memorize
I
it.
know.
As I told you, I spent all
I
my
can
life in
fall
church.
into church speak very fast.
Right. If he looked at her that way And she was like, I'll do anything you want because you're looking at me as if I'm the best thing since sliced bread. I'd be like, you know what? You guys are golden. Whatever, right? As long as you're looking at each other
Yeah.
equally yoked, right? So
Yes.
be it, right? Because he's treating you, he's showing you, you are the queen, you are the best
Yeah.
thing that I have. And then subsequently, she's like, because you admire me so much, I'm following
Yeah.
suit because I trust you. But when it becomes a control,
Mhm.
and that's been sort of the theme of what I've seen from these
Me too.
organized religions, and then also in terms of my family dynamic, which wasn't the case before. That was a learned
Mhm.
behavior from the church,
Yeah.
because like I said, I didn't have that before. And then into even down to how he treats my mom, and like I said,
Mhm.
he very much loves her, but
Yeah, but
it's definitely for control, kind of like he talks to me, right? Like, I'm the head of this household until you're married. Well, what does that take away from me? Just because I'm not married doesn't mean I'm
yeah.
not running my own household. And so it's been a hard road to toe,
Yeah.
if you will. And the healing process is not easy, considering
Mm-mm.
there's no accountability from the other human, because they're just going to spitball and continue thinking that their way, because all that happens from that angle is Bible speak. Because once I actually have a valid point,
Yeah.
the arguments solely become scripture, and that's when
Yeah.
I have no patience. And so I took
Yeah.
that off the table, and boundaries were crossed, and I literally said, you know what? And I walked out of a restaurant, the first time I ever defied my parents, even though I was 38. Um,
Bless your heart.
and right, but I'm not
Oh.
disrespectful that way. Like, again,
Oh, I know.
we don't
I've
walk away from hard things, and I teach my students that
yeah.
too. You don't walk away. You communicate. You do the hard work,
Mhm.
but at some point, I'm not going to continue to be beat up on. And
Yeah.
I will say, it wasn't until this past Christmas that I saw them. I talked to my mom on the phone, but I kept laying down boundaries that continued to be disrespected. And I was like, you know what? I can't. At what point am I going to continue to lay down the same boundary and continue to be mowed over and not hold accountable? Because at this point, you know, it is, I'm just not going to, I'm an adult. I don't have to do that. So,
Hold on just a sec. You can keep talking. I
oh,
just
you're
gotta
fine.
tell my husband
Oh,
something.
you're fine. But in many ways, that makes the healing process a lot harder, when there's not a support system sort of on the other side, because they're still stuck in that thinking. And like, I went 2 years without seeing my brother. Well, I saw my brother
Wow.
twice if my mom and I could sneak away. But again, she has to be a submissive wife. So he's instructing her not to see me because I am going against the family. And I'm the one
Yeah.
who's not leading the Christian life. And I'm not,
Yeah.
oh, the devil's leading her. And how dare you be around her, even though that's literally,
Mm. So,
again,
what is so
there's
do
no
you go
argument
to
for that.
church at all now, or, what's your like, as far as your faith, what is it now?
So I don't. I have a very
Mhm.
hard time with thinking about ever. Like, again, I will say I immediately joined a church, if you recall, right after I left
Mhm.
the other one. But that is what allowed me to stay out of that one,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was a means to an end at the time.
Yeah.
And again, I was 16, 17, so I was dating a guy who went to another.
Yeah.
You
Hey,
do whatever
whatever,
you.
right?
That's right. You do. Let's be real. So it's all about the boy at that point. But
Yeah.
I actually did really like that church. But my parents also knew that church. It's a very well known church around this area, and it was one that they didn't have an issue with, if
Oh,
you will.
yeah. Yeah.
So that's why it became acceptable. Um, and again, my mom had to really fight for that for me, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
But again, I was off to college, you know, literally the next year. So what are they really to do?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd already been accepted to East Carolina. like in
Yeah.
October, I did early acceptance. So what I'm saying is I was on a
Mhm.
clear exit path at that point.
Yeah.
Because when I left the church, it was like in August. And then I heard back from ECU in literally September, October. So after
Yeah.
early acceptance. And so I was, yeah, I was like, I'm out. But, but in terms of how that's affected my relationships, it really has impacted who I trust because it's very hard for me to trust people. Like it's
Mhm.
insanely hard.
I
I'm always
imagine.
questioning, yeah, like, do you actually, for a bit when I was younger, it was hard to accept criticism in some ways because I felt like I'm working so hard to be perfect. Like, I'm
Yeah.
working so hard to be perfect that I saw it as, oh my gosh, I'm failing, not as
Mhm.
a corrective criticism. Hey, this
Yeah.
is what I need. This is what I need from you. Also, in a work sort of situation, too, of
Mhm.
where I was doing everything I could to be perfect, but yet, like, hey, we all have something that we can work on, right? And then I was just like,
Yeah.
oh no, I'm failing. Oh, no. It was
Yeah.
triggering. And
Yeah. I can understand that. I really
yeah,
can.
well,
I
and I heard
really can.
Marilyn also talk about that in terms of when a thumb is on you like that, and
Oh, yeah.
it's a literal, it's a nightmare. It's
Mhm.
I don't know how to explain it. And again, I didn't know how to explain it until I was out from under it from COVID with my parents because I was still under I thought I had escaped, right? I didn't realize I was still under a
Yeah.
thumb, if you will. And so it's been a hard road to toe, and
Mhm.
it has been interesting in terms of my journey because, like I said, I'm later to bloom in that way. Because, like I said, in order to see my mom and see my brother, I have to be in good standing with him because
Yeah.
she's a submissive wife and you can't see her.
Ugh.
She's not doing what's right. And so he weaponizes my family dynamic if I don't fall in line,
Yeah.
which is which has been hard for me to trust that somebody else doesn't do that. So the first sign of
Yeah.
manipulation, I am like, oh, I'm out.
Yeah, I was gonna ask that. I wondered,
Yeah,
like,
I have
as
no
far as,
patience.
like yeah, in, like, a dating situation, do you, like are you hyper focused on any kind of, you know, where they would be, like, trying to control you or anything? Do you pick up on that faster than you probably would have before? And,
Oh,
like,
totally.
like, a lot of people like, whenever I was single, finding a good Christian man kinda thing was good, but then I wonder now if that's kind of, like, scary. Are they is this man gonna be just as, you know, wackadoodle kinda deal, be just as obsessed as that? And, you know yeah,
Yeah. And I will
I
say that's a struggle for me in bringing a person around my family. I have to do a lot of prep work, like a ton, to say like, "Hey, it's so good to meet you." And then you're like, "At what point do I bring up this crazy, stuff?"
yeah,
Because it's like, I mean, there's not
yeah,
enough preparation for that. And I will say that's what sort of drew me to sort of the Scientology community because in that area I could relate to that. Like,
yeah,
how do you prep? And mine's not as crazy as I mean,
yeah,
it's a
but
different crazy.
it's a different crazy. Yeah.
Right. It is crazy, but what I'm saying in terms of their side, it's even like in terms of some of their side, it's even more outlandish in some ways, but then less in some way. And so you're just like,
Mhm.
and so I really related to that. Like, how do you bring somebody now? Granted, they don't have to because they're all excommunicated.
Yeah.
That's not what's happening to me.
Yeah.
I'm still
Well,
being
at least
weaponized.
though, like, like, Scientology, I think the one thing good about, being, like, a ex-Scientologist, I mean, there's a lot of good about it, but anyway, is that so many people consider that a cult that I think that if you say, "I escaped Scientology," kind of a thing, then people are like they automatically know a lot about you know what I mean? But if you're like it's not like this thing that everybody goes, "Oh, that's a cult," you know? And so, I don't know, I think it just complicates it more. I think that,
It does.
if it's a known cult, then
Right.
it's a little easier to explain, and be like,
Exactly.
"Oh, don't think
Exactly.
bad about me, but I was in Scientology or something, but this
That's what
one,
I
you
felt.
don't have that,
Yeah. And I
so
will say that's why I related so much to Marilyn's story because she
Mhm.
almost had to do the same thing. She almost had to over explain in
Yeah.
many ways. I felt like to really, and not that she had to,
No,
but you
no, I know what
almost
you mean,
feel,
though.
I understood her need to want to
Mhm.
because it's so hard to explain something like this
I
because
think
you're
it's
right.
very brave of her because it would be the easier thing to do would be to just not say anything, but
Yeah.
she's being very brave. I've
Yeah.
always thought that to mention it because it brings it out in the open and, makes it more normal for people like your situation or even mine, which, mine was not anywhere near yours or Marilyn's, but you know, it was getting there. It
Yeah.
had its moments.
Yeah. And I will
So,
say some of the things that Marilyn went through, I haven't been through in terms
yeah,
vice versa because she left with her family. In some
yeah,
ways, I'm leaving with
you.
a situation where I'm still being forced to fit into, and if I
Yeah,
don't, then I'm weaponized
yeah.
because I'm not falling in line. I'm not
Mm,
X, Y, and Z, or they won't respect my boundaries of, hey, we're not
mm,
going to talk about this. You can literally ask me about anything else, but no. Well, and
mhm.
then it becomes, well, I'm the head of this household. I have a right to ask you to make sure that you're going to be up in heaven because that's my job as your
Mm,
dad. And then he starts quoting scripture, right? And it's a loop. It's just a
yeah,
constant. And I'm like, I'm not in the, like, I said one time to him, I said, you should be so grateful that I even have a foundation of faith because I actually
yeah,
do believe the way that he's weaponized some of this, I should actually be totally turned off to all of
yeah,
it.
yeah.
And I will say that is a testament to probably that Presbyterian upbringing in terms of the foundation that I initially felt safe in, to be fair,
Mhm.
before everything turned. Because a lot of kids who grew up in these situations don't have that initial
Yeah,
safety point, which is why I feel like
absolutely.
while I don't go to church and while I don't do any of that, I consider myself still very spiritual.
Yeah, me too.
I'm just
Me
not
too.
religious, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it does. Yeah, I tried when we first left our church, which my whole family left with me. We all
Yeah,
quit at the same time.
right.
And I like very much like almost immediately, like seriously left one weekend. I'm like, I'm done. I'm out. The next weekend, I'm at another church and trying to fit in there and everything. And just couldn't, it was as soon as they would hear the stories, and they, of course, would hear the stories immediately. I mean, like, I
Right.
showed up for church on Sunday, the preachers all get together every Monday, and I'm sure,
Yep.
it was all, "Boy, Susie this," and they're like, "Oh, well, she was at our church." And so from then on, the preacher was just not very friendly. He will see us and has for years, would see us in town and just, like, ignore us even when we were actually still attending his church. And
Yep.
so, it was just so I don't attend church anymore. I do consider myself spiritual. I was talking the other day and saying that, I have always said that I'm a Christian, but I don't know if I even feel comfortable saying I'm a Christian because I believe in Christ and I'm spiritual and all of that, but I don't believe in some of the things that Christians are doing, and
Yeah,
how they're behaving and all that. And I don't necessarily know that I want to be associated with that. And
that's right.
so, I'm just like, ugh. And I mean,
Yeah.
I'm here in Oklahoma in a very rural area. And oh man, let me tell you, it
Yep.
is some,
Yep.
you know,
Yeah. And I will say I'm the same way. I actually don't say that I'm a Christian. I actually say that, I believe in a God. I don't care what you call yours.
yeah. Me
I
either.
happen to call mine God. If you
Yeah.
call yours Allah, if you call yours, Yahweh, Buddha,
Yeah.
whatever you happen to call yours, that's who am I to say? That's your language. I know him as God. I
Mhm.
believe in Jesus. I believe in a Holy Spirit. I believe that is my God. That leads me in terms of, and I still have my own, I guess you could say, relationship in some ways.
Mhm.
But I will say that it's my faith is never broken, meaning I know some people have the whole like, Lord, why would you do this? Like, why?
Yeah.
I've never had that
Yeah,
kind
I
of
haven't either.
I realized at a very young age, and maybe because of what's happened in some in my past, that it's the human talking and
Yeah.
not meaning I can
Well, and
separate.
and 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 we were given free will, and
That's right.
so,
Yeah.
God said, I'm not gonna quote, but anyway, I could, but anyway, he
No,
said that
yeah.
he would never, like, whenever the whole Noah's Ark thing and everything, floods the earth and all that, and he said he would
Right.
never do that again, that he would never step in. He gave us free will, and he is there, and he guides us and all these things, but that's how come bad things happen, is because humans have free will, and God does not step in and prevent those things. And sometimes I'm like, man, I wish he would.
Yeah.
But then other
Well, I would
times,
say,
I get it. It's one of those hard
yeah.
things, but
Well, I would
yeah.
say with an owner's manual, like, you get one with a car, you get one with like a vacuum cleaner, you get one with a
Yeah.
microwave. And like, where's my owner's manual? But then
Yeah.
also, I look how much also too against my parents, right? That I buck up against the system and I'm like, would I really want that, right?
Yeah.
Because this is how my belief is this is how he did design us, right?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
it's each of us is different. It's up to us to
Absolutely.
figure out. And as long as you're out here doing good in the world, as long as you're out here imparting, you know, kindness and generosity and
Mhm.
you give back to others and you you follow the 10 commandments because that's pretty much the law to be fair.
Yeah.
And
Here,
so
read this.
yeah.
Indigo said, I have started to realize that parents in cults, at least not born in, are also victims, some of whom become perpetrators and or recruiters. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, yeah, and my parents did that too. I mean,
Mhm.
again, they tried to bring in anybody they could. I watched, them try to do that with my brother's workers who would come into the home and, they would push
Mhm.
and it was
Yeah.
never my mom, it was always my stepdad. But I'm like, you're making them uncomfortable. You wonder why you can't keep,
Yeah.
workers,
Because it
or
makes
they're
them
forced to lie
uncomfortable.
to you
Yeah.
so that you just lay off.
Mhm.
And I said, but that's my boyfriend. Like everybody I bring around, like I said, I have to
Oh,
do better
yeah.
with.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, hey, listen, I know where you stand. I'm on the same team here, but around them, you're on the cross. Like
Yeah. Oh my
what we
goodness.
do in private is our own, but
Yeah.
otherwise,
Yeah.
you are the best Christian on the planet because I don't need anything else working against me here. But
Oh,
and I
yeah.
will say, I usually bring them around when I want them to leave. So that's
That's
that's usually how it goes.
That's brilliant, actually. So
No,
Carrie said, she
it's
said that
actually
she
sad, but
agrees
yeah.
with Indigo. She says, I feel that perpetrators and recruiters kind of have the same agenda and are very self-serving. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
And I'm trying to keep track with some of these so we don't, get too far.
absolutely.
So Indigo says, what advice would you give younger you if you had the chance? That's a good
Ooh, that's a good
question.
question. Younger me, I would have laid boundaries in terms of my familial dynamic a lot sooner. Meaning,
Mhm.
I did lay boundaries. I did not stand by. Meaning, I laid them, and I would go a couple months and not see them to make a point.
Mhm.
And then my stepdad would behave, right? He would be
Yeah.
kind. It was the love bombing again, right? The same thing
Yeah.
that he's
So you needed to lay those boundaries with yourself as well and
Right.
keep them.
And so I fell back
Yeah.
in. But after time one, that should have been it. It took
Yeah.
three for me to be
Wow.
like, okay.
Yeah.
But again, it was always because of what I'm giving up. I'm giving up time with my brother and my mom, which is
Yeah.
hard. And so it's not that's what I'm saying. It's not the same. Laying down boundaries is hard in that situation when it comes at the stake of the people that you love the most. So laying
Absolutely.
foundations are literally giving up. Like my brother is my heart. Like to not be
Mhm.
around him for 2 years was incredibly
Oh, I can
difficult.
imagine.
And
Yeah.
I love him more than any human on the planet.
Mhm.
And that's to give that relationship up to set a boundary.
Yeah.
But again, I didn't do that. They did. And it took me a
Mhm.
long time to learn that okay, that's on them. That's not on you. But also, I'm watching life go by that and that's time I am giving up
Yeah.
and to where the relationship is becoming severed because make no mistake, I'm his only sibling. He's going to be mine the day that my
Mhm.
parents pass away.
Yeah.
And we could have had a solid bond all
Yeah.
throughout. And they're taking that, but also they're taking that. And I had to make that shift because what they were doing was unhealthy to me. And I could not, I was
Mhm.
suffocating. And
Yeah.
so I was forced into giving that up, which is unfair for the sake
Mhm.
of
You know,
sanity.
that's, it's a lot like Scientology with the disconnection policy. You know, you had
Yeah,
to toe the line. You still continue to some on some level have to toe the line to be able to have the relationship with your mom and your brother.
right.
And if not, then you're disconnected with basically. So that is very much like Scientology.
Yeah.
So it's just so scary. So
It's I
Ben
really
said,
like
so
hearing other people's stories of like when my friends and I watch people like, it like all around me, right? They're free to be who they are in front of their
yeah.
parents. And I'm like, I can't even imagine that world. And
Mhm.
in terms of with my mom, without my stepdad around, I can be a lot more free.
Yeah.
But if he's around, I mean, even she's like, like she'll say my stepdad's name and be like, he's here, like,
Yeah.
and,
Mm.
but I'm like, even she's playing a game. So
Yeah.
you're not even being, because this is an issue. But again, who am I to say I'm not
Yeah.
married? So I can't imagine.
Yeah.
I try to be patient and understanding because that's her relationship. She's got to
Yeah.
navigate that and that's not for me to say but also
Mhm.
that doesn't help with me viewing relationships with other
Yeah.
people because I'm like by heck if I enter something like that you've
Yeah.
got to be insane
Yeah.
because I
I
watch what it does
imagine.
to her.
Mhm. So Ben says, so if you don't subscribe to it, you're a bad person. And
Yep.
that's true.
No, that's it. That's literally it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's literally it in a
Yeah.
nutshell.
Yeah, but it's on a grander scale if you're told you're not going to heaven and you're on a
Yeah.
fast track highway to
Yeah.
H.
Yeah.
But if you do believe in that, that's hard. That's a hard hitting for my soul because I do actually still
Oh yeah.
believe. So that's hard to
Mhm. Oh
if
yeah.
I didn't if I were an atheist or something like that, I wouldn't care
Yeah,
as
it
much.
would
That wouldn't hit
yeah, it
as
wouldn't matter.
hard. Yeah.
Mm. I don't know. That is crazy. So I know that you said that how your parents got into this to begin with was through an MLM.
Mhm.
And so I was wondering, I have been associated with several in my life, and I wondered, have you fallen victim to any of those?
Nope.
Much smarter than me.
I saw it for what it was as a kid. And I will say my parents have gotten into several others, and I
Uh,
will literally say, and my mom's like, well, please, I just have to bring 5 people. Will you come and sit? Like, I just need a fifth. And I'll say, yeah, but I'm going to turn away the other four that you have sitting there.
yeah.
I'm not the one, boo. Like, I'm not the
Yeah.
one. I'm like, you can bring me. And she was like, but for the sake of, could you just believe in us? And I'm like, I believed in the other three. If you build a
Yeah.
pyramid in front of me again, I swear to you, I'm going to lose my mind. And then
Mhm.
literally I'll sit there again for the sake. I'm like, shit. And she's like, no, that's not what it is. And then I literally watch a tiered system of some. And then I literally,
Mhm.
I'm like, and again, I don't disrespect my parents, but I will literally look at her at some point because again, she's my mom. She raised me. She gives me the look across the room. I give her that same look back.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
moment that I'm like, and
Yeah.
you told me, look what's on the.
You
Stop
know,
it.
I was stupid. I got into several of them, and I drug my mom into a couple of them, and
Yeah.
I did
No.
well. You know, I did well for a while, you know, and until at some point you when you live in a small community like I live in, you either run out of customers or you run out of people to recruit, which immediately you run out of customers. So
That's
you've
right.
either recruited all of your customers.
Hmm.
I would have done better to just sell them the stuff and not try to
Yeah.
recruit them. But they're like, "You
Yep.
gotta recruit, you gotta recruit, you gotta recruit," you know? But yeah, I figured
Well,
out afterwards that I should have just sold. I should have just, like, forget all this recruiting and just keep selling you stuff, you know? And
yeah.
another thing is, Eve, have you noticed that how many of them are Christian based
Oh, almost
or
all of them are.
Mormon or
Almost
Mormon?
all of
Yeah.
them are. They
Yeah.
have a Christian, and that's the thing because they want you in that group think mindset. They
Yeah.
want you in that follow what I say,
Yeah.
do what I say, take communion, break bread. Let's
Yeah.
be, because there's a bonding in that, right? There's a, and
Mhm.
especially if you all go together, like I said, we were all sitting in church together, the Amway peeps. We went to the same church that their uplines were sitting in. I know
Yeah.
all the terms. I can tell them all to you. That's how
Yeah.
long we were in Amway, I think, for I don't even know. It was a stupid amount of time is the point. Um, like literally from the time I was like third grade until I'm
Mm.
not even sure my parents officially left when I was in 11th and 12th. I think they stopped buying products when I was in
Yeah.
college, is the point. And it's and they were,
Mm.
which made it harder to leave the church because they're still in the business, right? And you're
Mhm.
all, which makes it a harder dynamic. Again, those direct ties are so dysfunctional because not
Yeah.
only is it hard to leave from the church's dynamic and the pressure they put on you, but you also have that other pressure of,
Mhm.
but I think the MLM system pulls on stuff like that
Yeah.
so that it creates that dynamic. They will attach to the church saying, "Oh, you live around here? Oh, we go to this church. You should come.
Yeah.
It's so wonderful." And it's, and again, I know that you're in Oklahoma, but I can say Bible Belt, right? That
Yeah.
is a standard. It is. I'm not sure if that works up north. I haven't seen it work
Yeah.
up north, but down here, that is a staple for all of them.
Oh, I know.
Because it's a
Absolutely.
family feel, it's community, it's this, it's being
Mhm.
around like-minded people.
Mhm.
That's the
Oh,
common
yeah.
phrase.
Yeah, I remember every single one of them that I joined, they might not talk about, Christianity or whatever to begin with, like, in that first thing. At first, they grab you with the, "You're gonna make all this money," kinda thing.
Yep.
But it immediately turns to, this Christian type stuff
Yep.
and,
But the church does the same. Like I said, my pastor rode a motorcycle up on a,
I've been thinking about that all week.
like,
I
where have
really
you
have.
ever in your
I'm
life?
like, "Oh my
And again,
goodness."
we have it on tape. I get to inherit
Yeah.
that at some point. Like,
Oh,
now
I've seen
in
some
my
stuff.
brain, I wish
I
I
really
didn't
have.
see that, but it's memorialized in our house.
Yeah.
And
Oh, man.
but again, that's the two speaking to each other, right? It's
Mhm.
because again, in
Yeah.
Amway, I could see an upline, right? Who's a
Yeah.
diamond, because that's what it was in Amway, right?
Yeah.
And again, now quoted as Quickstar. I don't know if they have another rebrand, as I said, but that's something that they would do, right? They would be
Yeah.
flashy and doing that kind of thing. But that's when it bleeds into the church. Again, I don't think had the Amway business not been so prolific in our church, because it was literally half of I know the 11:30 sanctuary. I
Yeah.
can't speak to the other ones because you were asking me last time, like how many
Yeah.
people,
Yeah. You said they had
and
like
I didn't have a
3.
clear answer because I'm not quite sure, to be fair.
Yeah.
Um, but I can tell you, we went to, like I said, the 11:30, and it was. But I was looking at the same people I looked at where I was at school because not only did we do that, I went to the private Christian school with all of those diamond kids.
Yeah.
And it's because our church didn't have a private Christian school yet.
Mhm.
So, but where they went, I went. I mean, we were we were in
Yeah.
it, and there was no escape.
Yeah.
Me being at church, me being at school, it was the church was Amway and the Amway was church, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
It does. It really does. Oh,
But they do that with the kids. But that's the
yeah.
bad thing, is they're not doing that with each other. It's not like, oh, leave your job and, or oh, I work here in the meantime until we make it big, right? Come join my work. They
Yeah.
weaponize the children to congregate them together. That's
Mhm.
the sucky thing, is
Yeah.
that we're the ones paying the cost of it.
Well, because that's future members. They've gotta keep the
That's
kids
right.
in. I mean,
Yeah, it's group.
you know, the
It's
older
group.
ones are gonna die off eventually. They gotta keep the
Yep,
younger, you know.
that's right.
Ben says, but one of the biggest warning flags of moral framing is in action is us versus them
Yep.
mentality.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I it was very shocking to me from a, because like I was telling you last week that the church that I grew up in out in California was great. There was 7 kids in the whole church. It was this tiny little thing. Everybody was old, and because the town was almost all Hispanic, and so the Catholic church was huge and had a lot of people in it, and then this little Baptist church over here, they didn't have the Lutheran, the Presbyterian, and all. They had Catholic, tiny little Baptist. That was it.
Right.
Well, they had
Yep.
a black Baptist, so that the black people in town all went there, and
Those
then
are the best ones.
oh, I know it. Oh my
I'm
goodness.
like, parents, why can't we go there?
I
One, they're
know.
fun. Two,
Yeah.
they're throwing the best potluck
Oh, I know.
on the church grounds that you can have.
And they're
And
singing
then
fun
third, they're
hymns
going to
and
show up
stuff,
at a
so
funeral procession. So if you want to have notoriety, they're all going to be there. Like, we
yeah,
missed the mark on that.
I know. I know it.
So welcoming. Like, they really are, actually.
But yeah, I wondered, though. I was one of the things I was wondering this week that I wanted to hit on was if you found, you know, had fallen into any MLM things, and I'm glad to
Yeah.
hear you have not. But what about other things? Like, do you have a hard time with any kind of groups? I don't know. I know teachers, a lot of times they'll have like specific book clubs and stuff that they go to. Teachers, like, a lot of times will kind of cluster together, or they do here. They tend to do a lot of things together. And I wonder if you're kind of standoffish about groups and, that kind of thing. And
Yeah.
even on YouTube, I imagine that can get a little scary too with you
Yeah.
know,
Well,
stuff.
and as a special ed teacher, I will say that gives me a different outlook because there are so few
Yeah.
of us, to where I can actually kind of be different thinking because I have to
Mhm.
think like my kids, right? And so I have to, and
Mhm.
I inevitably, unfortunately, I'm going to piss somebody off. That's just the
Yeah.
nature of my role because I'm their advocate first.
Yeah.
And inevitably, I'm going to
Absolutely.
have a teacher who's bucking up against me, right? And if they have
Mhm.
that friend, because you're right, the gen ed teachers, like, they stick
Yeah.
together. I've
Yeah.
always stood alone. And I will say that is what has made me own a house with an acre of property.
Yeah.
I've been resilient in that way. But I will say that's also in some ways a deficit because I don't have a craving to need anybody, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
any environment that I walk into at work, if I'm liked, great. If I'm not,
Yeah.
great. Don't care because that's not why I'm
Yeah.
here, you know? And and
Yeah,
and
I
again, I
I
always.
totally got away from that. Like, it doesn't matter to me, like, if people like
Yeah,
me or
I
not.
don't
Like,
care. Yeah.
I don't care. I mean, I wanna care, sometimes I wanna care, but at the same time, I just don't. If somebody thinks that I'm a bitch, and I'm like, "Okay, you know,
Yeah.
whatever."
So be it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and
I mean,
again, that's a sign that you don't know me, because if you did know me,
yeah,
how could I be in this profession when literally my job is to
yes,
fight for my kids? So clearly
absolutely.
I'm not that. But if that's how
Yeah.
you want to see me, again,
Mhm.
what you think of me is none of my business.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
like I
You know, my
developed a
dad
very
worked in the school system for, like, 33 years and at the same school, and, so that and then, like, watching even with my daughter and stuff now, I see how they can teachers and different groups, can be very clicky, and I wondered how
totally.
that, affected you if you were just like,
Yeah.
"Go away."
One, I tend to bond with like the psychologist or like the
Yeah,
family support. So I
yeah,
guess we're kind of clicky in that way. Like you gravitate
yeah,
toward the outliers because again,
mhm,
SPED, there's so few of us. The family support, there's usually like one or two in a school. The
mhm,
interventionist, there's like one or two, but the interventionist I actually obviously relate to because
yeah,
they're some of my kids, now that I'm in high school, not so much, but when I was in elementary, they're going to them first and then they're coming
mhm,
to me. So obviously I have to build some sort of at least a professional bond with them, because we have to communicate directly. Because if
yeah,
they're being referred for SPED, I need them on my team, like,
yeah. Oh,
and
yeah,
again, and again, it's not transactional because most of the time I actually think like them because it's
yeah,
the same way of thinking. We're in this to fight for kids, to help
absolutely.
kids, as opposed to where, and not that the gen ed teachers don't do that too, because they do. Obviously, you can't do
Yeah,
this job if you're not fighting for kids. But it is a different, it is a
it is
different
different, I
outlook
can get that. Yeah, absolutely,
because we're standing up
absolutely.
for the voiceless in many
Mhm,
ways and kids who can't fight for themselves, even though they
mhm,
are the ones most of the time fighting, and it's because they don't know how to communicate, right? And so they're
yeah,
expecting us to communicate for them and to be their voice. And and I will say that's been very cathartic for me in some ways. Being other children's voice when I felt like I
mhm.
didn't have one for so
I
long.
bet, I
And I
was
will
about to put that
say,
together, yeah.
yeah, I will say the interventionists or the SPED teachers or the psychologists, they're all like me.
Yeah,
It's because we all have our stories.
yeah. Oh,
We all
I'm
have our
sure.
thing. Like we all got here because of something like that, of feeling voiceless, whether we were raised in strict, Christian households, or whether,
Mhm,
there was some sort of, unfortunately, neglect or abuse or whatever the
mhm.
case is. And but there's always something there that makes us fight to not have this happen again, if that makes
Yeah,
sense. We don't want to see kids be a product of us, so we are out here fighting so that kids don't we don't want kids to be us in the
mhm.
future, even though
So
we're
do
all living
so
good lives. But I'm saying
Yeah,
we
I know
don't.
what you mean, though. So do
Yeah.
you think that your past with the cult and with feeling, kinda marginalized and without a voice, do you think that that makes you a better teacher and a better advocate for these kids?
Yeah, I do think so. I will say that obviously being ADHD, I've had to really work on my because like I said, I've never been the one to get in trouble. I've never been the one to
Yeah,
do things impulsive in terms of actions. But with my words, I have had to really scale back. And
yeah.
if I see something with a kid and it's a teacher who is egregious, let's say, who's not applying accommodations on a legal document,
Mhm,
and I'm being patient. I've been working for months, and
mhm.
let's say I'm not getting the help of admin or whatever. I mean, I've been known to say, this is gonna hit.
Yeah,
I'm be standing
yeah,
in court with you, but not on your side, on the parent side.
yeah,
You do with that what you will. And that's never what you want to say, because you always
yeah,
want to have that other teacher as your comrade. Like, I mean, we're
yeah,
in
but I
this
get it.
together, but also I can't tolerate this anymore. And so,
Mhm,
how that comes out is usually I will use the court example. And that
mhm,
hits hard sometimes, but also I'm like, you need a dose of this reality.
mhm,
And then sometimes the teacher's like, oh, I'm humbled by that. And
mhm.
then sometimes we're laying in the principal's office together, trying to work
Yeah,
it out. you know?
I
And
get
so I
that
will say
too.
I fight. I am very good at, again, because of what I do for a living. I have to reach kids all day who fight me, right? Who feel
Yeah.
voiceless, who have behavioral, right? I'm good
Mhm.
at dealing with that kind of stuff. Those are kids.
Yeah.
I have adults I
Mhm.
have a little less patience with. But again, let me educate you because clearly
Mhm.
you need some education in sped, right? And so I approach it the same way, not being patronizing, but being patient and saying, hey,
Mhm.
this is on their document. Again, if you want to change that document, come to their meeting. But for now, you
Yeah.
have to apply what's on here because that's the law.
Mhm.
Like, those are just facts. And then they're
Yeah.
like, continue to not do it. I'm like, well, I don't know how to help you with this because that's just,
Yeah.
we're going to land in court. Like, I don't know what else to tell
Mm.
you, you know? And again, that sometimes lands well, it sometimes doesn't. But
Yeah.
like I said, I don't, in the end, I don't care if that makes sense. My job is to be my student's voice. And if I've tried everything in my arsenal to sort of do that, well, then I've got to go there for the sake of my kid.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So,
So,
but yeah, I think we're the best kind, is my point. We're usually the loudest voices. And
mhm.
again, we're the most patient because we get it until we're not.
Absolutely.
So,
Well, you're patient with who you need to be patient with. Let's
that's
put it
right.
that way.
Kids all day long,
Yeah.
all day. Adults, I reach a threshold.
So, was there anything else on your list that you wanted to touch on?
Well, I will say, you know, I which you mentioned the long and complicated healing process.
Mhm.
I watch some of these Scientologists, right?
Yeah.
And I watch, I'll be careful here. There's obviously ones that are more controversial than others, and some
Yeah.
who, you know, and again, to be fair, and if anybody watched me on Maryland stream, that's not my jam, if that makes sense. I don't
Yeah.
get tied up in that. I will say, I became vocal in terms of some other things, but that wasn't
Mhm.
against the religion so much. That was against some other things in terms of what I saw happening there,
Yeah.
which is why I stopped following certain people. Um, because you mentioned patterns,
Yeah.
there are patterns, and
Yeah.
the
I've
long
seen
road to
that in a lot
healing.
of different communities, not even necessarily the Scientology community. I see it
Yeah,
happen in completely
right.
unrelated
Right. Well,
communities.
and I say that about myself. I'm not ever sure we'll be fully healed, if
Yeah.
that makes sense, because there will always be that has shaped us, right? And to be
Mhm.
fair, in some ways, if you don't use your situation as a victim and you try to learn and grow and to
Mhm.
take that and be better
Yeah.
instead of being the victim, but to be a voice and a proper voice,
Yeah.
um, there's so much you can do with that. And that's where I'm at.
Absolutely.
But to say that full healing will ever take place, I don't think that's the case. But
Mhm.
I can't say that it's not healing either because I'm not sure I want to be healed because I don't want to be that naive, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I get it.
Like my parents heal, which is why they're a part of the same cycle.
Mhm.
And
Well,
so I'm not
they
sure.
say, that grief isn't linear, and I don't think that
Yeah.
healing is either.
Right.
It's kind of back and forth, and you can conquer certain things, and then something will come up, you
Yeah.
gotta conquer that same thing again, and,
Yeah, exactly.
it's
But
just
I will say my
crazy.
parents always use the word healing of, you need to heal your heart. You have such
Yeah.
a negative outlook, or you have such, a pessimistic, and you just like you're not letting the Lord do work on your heart or whatever. Again, weaponized, right?
Yeah.
But and that's their classic word for that.
Mhm.
I don't want to ever become that complicit. I don't ever
Yeah.
want to become that naive. I don't ever want to fall into sort of that dialogue. And I will say, I've watched all these, creators, and my heart breaks for them because they haven't had any sort of feeling in some ways, or if they
Hmm.
have, it's in some ways it happened later, right? Which
Yeah.
takes a lot longer to undo patterns of behavior,
Hmm.
and who's to say, because that becomes a habit, right?
Hmm.
um
Absolutely.
and so thankfully I got out from some things, but like I said, I was still, and in some ways I'm still under the thumb, even though I'm fighting against it. Like I said, I'm giving up a
Yeah.
lot to do that.
Yeah.
But I don't, I think healing comes in terms of being okay with who you are,
Hmm.
saying it confidently, and taking that trauma and that
Hmm.
lived experience and doing better, and saying, hey,
Absolutely.
I'm going to take this and I'm going to use it for the greater good. Kind of like what I said about SPED, right? Like, I do this because I don't ever want a kid to feel like they don't have a voice out there fighting for them.
Yeah.
I didn't for so long, and I don't
Absolutely.
want that. And so that's my passion, right? I'm taking what I didn't have when I was a kid
Hmm.
and speaking up for others. And that's
Yeah.
the way I'm giving back, if that makes sense. And it's, and I do it in many other ways too, not just my job,
Yeah.
but I just, I watch the crash and burn, I guess, model
Yeah.
in many ways. Or even if they're not crashing and burning and they seem successful on some levels, but the fallout in terms of their personal relationships, or the
Yeah.
fallout in terms of, their friendships, or what, it just seems like they're all in chaos. And I hope, and there's
Yeah.
not one without that, if that makes
No,
sense,
there's
not one.
not. There's not one.
And that's what I mean by, I don't prescribe by, I'm not on team anybody, because
Yeah.
if you look around, they are all struggling. And
Yeah.
I just want them to find peace. I just want them all to find, because, and it's, again, they haven't accepted what has happened
Yeah. Well, that
in
and
some
for so
ways.
many of them, they say that whenever you've been traumatized like that, that your emotional growth is kind of stunted
Oh,
at when
totally.
this is,
Yeah.
at when the
Yeah.
trauma was happening and stuff. And these are people that didn't go to even junior high or high school, much less college.
Correct. Yeah.
They didn't have normal, healthy teenage relationships, whether it be friends or that first love, or, whatever it was. They didn't have those things and they didn't learn how to fight, like fight fair, basically, how to
Right.
have an argument and it's not the end of the world, you know,
That's right.
that person that you're arguing with is not the
Right.
devil, you know.
That's right.
And so they've never learned how to do that. And so I think that is a lot of their problems is that they don't
Yeah.
have the emotional maturity, their
That's
body's
right.
matured and all of that, but they're
Well,
kind
and
of
even the ones
emotionally
who
stunted.
Well, and even the ones who did have that experience, even when they were maybe younger, like some who got
Mhm.
in, like, they
Yeah,
still went to school until, maybe elementary, middle, or they went to
yeah,
school all the way through high school.
yeah,
I mean, like,
yeah,
whatever, or they didn't go at all, right?
yeah,
Whatever the case is, some of them did have that experience, but they're not latching
mhm,
onto that
yeah,
norm.
yeah,
They're using their victimization in some
mhm.
ways as their
It's
story and as their
easier.
history.
It's easier. It's more
Well, that's right.
comfortable,
That's
I
right.
don't mean that ugly. I don't,
No, I don't
I just
either.
mean like
And
it's
listen, and maybe it's in
comes more
some ways me.
natural, you know.
Yeah. And maybe that's my stubbornness, in terms of, I have been controlled for so long that I will never let that control me. So I define it. Like, I'm not going to let that define me.
Mhm,
I'm going to rise above and do better,
mhm.
because in spite of.
Yeah,
And in
absolutely.
some ways, I will say that is a controlling factor too, but I'd rather be on this end of that
Yeah,
than letting it
yeah,
define me, if that makes
mhm.
sense.
Absolutely,
I
no, I agree.
I would rather be on this side of that fight. as opposed to the other. And I just watch all of them. And again, I feel like some are actually doing while they're struggling with certain things or whatever. I do watch some of them trying to rise above that, and they don't want to say they're victims or whatever it is, and
Mhm.
they're actually trying to, protest or whatever it is, be on the street and do better. And but they just keep falling prey to like relationships or whatever their niche is, right?
Mhm.
it I feel my heart breaks for them because, like I said, like you were saying, like there's patterns, and
Yeah.
I'm trying to break patterns of behavior. Like I said,
Yeah.
it didn't take me it took me until the pandemic to realize I was under the same pattern of
Yeah.
behavior. It was underneath my parents, right? And once I got out from underneath that, oh my gosh, right?
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that I haven't fell victim to it in a relationship, because I
Mhm.
have. And then it's like, okay, fight again, right? Like, don't lose
Mhm.
yourself in that. And again, that's easier said than done. That's what I'm saying. There's no judgment on any of them because it's hard. I even struggle
Mhm.
with it. And again, when I'm out from under it, it's easier to be on this side, right? Because I'm not dating anybody at the moment.
Yeah.
I'm not, you know, when you're in something,
Yeah.
it's hard. And you get
Absolutely.
caught up in, and it's not an easy thing. But also that's just the relationship side. But in terms of the patterns of just, whatever their, like I said, whatever their thing is, they all have their individual things,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah. They
And
do.
I just want them to just say, hey, this is a problem for me. Because
Mhm.
what I see when I get out of these relationships, I'm like, stop accepting that.
Yeah.
Like, I get upset with myself, if that makes
Yeah.
sense, because I want better for me. I don't I guess there might be one, but other than that, I don't really see that in them. It's more like, "You did this to me," as opposed to, "What was my piece of this
Yeah.
pie?" And again, I know that's how they
Yeah.
were trained. So it's a very that's what I mean by, like, I actually feel more sorry for them in some ways because that
I do
is the way they
too.
were trained.
I was thinking about that actually today. I don't It's odd. I'll just sit and have random thoughts about stuff. And, I was thinking about how in Scientology, they are taught that if anything bad happens to you, that you brought it in, that you
Yeah,
caused it, basically.
yeah.
And so I think sometimes, and this is just me, I'm not a professional, this is just Susie sitting back watching stuff. I wonder if sometimes if that is why so many of the former Scientologists, they don't seem to accept guilt for things. It's always somebody else's fault now. And I wonder if that is like a because everything was their fault, that now nothing is gonna be their fault, if that makes any kind of sense. I
Well, and
just
also when it is your
wonder.
fault, you're learned to not respond to it because they're
Yeah,
screaming in your face. And if you
yeah,
respond, which means if you cry, right? Like, meaning if you actually show that you feel bad, you're showing remorse,
yeah,
well, then you're in trouble for that.
yeah,
So it
yeah.
literally turns off a
Mhm,
an almost sensor in their brains of it's
mhm.
confusion. That creates
I
confusion
Absolutely.
on a
It's
level
a
that
damned
I've
if you
never
do and damned if
seen
you
before.
don't kinda
That's
thing.
right. Like, what am I supposed to do here? Like, okay, so I'm admitting I'm wrong, which is an appropriate human emotion, right? And that comes out
Yeah,
in kids by crying, and that comes out, "Mommy, I'm so sorry," or dad,
yeah,
whatever it is, right?
yeah.
And a lot of that's via parenting too, and holding them accountable, right? But the
Mhm.
kid eventually comes because there's structure, and you teach them, hey, you can come back to me and say sorry. That's okay.
Yeah.
That's fine. That's what we
If
should
they
do when
don't
we
have
mess
that.
up. That's a teaching tool, right? That's what I always tell
Mhm,
my kids. You humble yourself, you're going to get far in life. Admit when you're wrong, and that's it. But
mhm.
they were trained in the exact opposite way. If they did
Absolutely.
that, they were in trouble. If they didn't do that, if they didn't push the blame off, then they were also in trouble. So it's
Mhm.
like, but you get 100% in trouble for having emotion.
Oh,
You can
yeah.
displace blame potentially. You can shift there's a
Yeah.
chance that you survive, emotionally speaking, if you can shift away, right?
Mhm.
And so that's why I feel like they all kind of take that path.
Mhm.
And again, no judgment here. Who am I?
Yeah, I'm not
That's
judging
a
it
level
either.
of
I've
undoing.
I've sat and
But
just tried to think, how would how would I react to something like that? And I think I believe that if I was raised or lived for, however many years or whatever, that every single thing that happened to me that was bad was my fault. I think I can see myself turning that the other direction, like, it ain't nothing gonna be my fault from now on, and
that's right.
not consciously think that,
That's right.
but, subconsciously think that,
Right. Well, and
so
even if you said, "Oh, I'm sorry," even like, I mean, I listened to even, the more controversial figures in terms of the higher ups, right? Where
Mhm.
you heard, people like Mark and Amy Scobie and even, I won't keep going because I know that those are going to be controversial figures, but I even heard them
Yeah, but
talk about
still.
times where they would say, I'm sorry," for the sake of, and then they were hit because they said
Yeah,
they were sorry.
yeah,
And so
absolutely. Well, they were
it's it
absolutely I still and I know that some of them are very controversial and everything, but at the same time, 2 things can be true at once. They
That's right.
were absolutely victims of Scientology,
100.
and they were absolutely perpetrators in
That's right.
Scientology, and so, you know, 2 things can be true at once, and
That's
I
right.
I never really got that so much until I started really looking into Scientology and figuring out that, wow, because, at first, I was like, oh, up on my high horse thinking, well, they're just terrible. This one and that one's just terrible people. And then I would think, now, wait a minute, you know, and maybe they were, but
Yeah,
why were they? You
that's
know?
right. And again, 2 things can be true at once. They could
Yeah.
have been a horrible human, but also they
But
could have
why?
waken up to that and saying, "Oh my gosh, I'm a horrible human." And is that
Yeah.
supposed to, I think the piece that's missing for those people is that they've never owned it,
Yeah.
in terms of
Yeah.
publicly, to especially the lower generations, whether it be second or third gen, whatever,
Hmm.
or even some first gens,
Yeah.
but they've never owned that piece. That's what I'm saying. None of them own their piece of the pie. Like, look at what you're contributing. You're
Hmm.
creating your own chaos, whether it's in your love life, whether it's in the legal life, whether it's in, like, your job, whether
Hmm.
it's just like they don't know how to live without chaos. And I
Yeah.
am doing my best to strive to not,
I
like,
know.
I want nothing but peace. If anything, I've almost, yeah, become a recluse in some
I've
ways
said
because
the
I'm like,
same thing.
I
I've
don't need
said
the
so many
noise.
times that I think that they thrive. You know,
They
they
thrive on it.
they thrive on it.
They don't know
And
how to
I
live
just
without it.
yeah, and I don't think they want to thrive on it. I think that it is all just goes back to how they were trained. I mean, again, I'm not throwing any shade. I love them.
Yeah,
There's
me
several
either.
of the, former Scientologists that I absolutely love, and even some that they don't like each other, and I still love them all. It's just like,
Right.
but yeah, absolutely.
The only ones
I
that
I agree, Ben. I
yeah.
agree.
Yep, that's true. Well, and it's because you turn off emotions.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
why.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's because you weaponize emotions. Again,
Mhm.
what a polarizing thing, especially if they were kids in this, which most of the people that we're listening to were kids.
Yeah.
And so they're
Absolutely.
crying, they're begging for their parents, they're begging for love. And then you're told, there's no kids, there's no tears.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
but then also you're going to sit in these auditing sessions, you're going to have people yelling in your face, and if you react, then you
Mhm.
have to start all over and you're going to sit in
Mhm.
this for hours. I mean, I
Yeah.
can't imagine how what that does to your headspace.
Oh, I can't
And
either.
so
I
for
absolutely can't.
and so now I think you see some of them becoming almost overly emotional because they
Yeah.
don't know how to regulate that because they
Yeah, they don't
weren't
know
taught
how.
to regulate it.
Yeah, they
And
were
so
never
now
taught.
it's all coming out in droves but it's wreaking havoc in their lives.
Mhm.
What
I
and most of
agree.
it's bleeding out on the World Wide Web, and you're like, "Some of y'all
Yeah.
just need to turn off your cameras."
Yeah.
Like, some of
I
y'all
know,
just
right?
need some of y'all just need to hit the snooze button on the YouTube
Yeah.
because and again, I know that's how they make their money, a lot of them, but it's
Yeah, but
like,
still.
okay, but oh, yeah, okay. And I will say I respect the ones who are just you can see the ones who are
Yeah.
just don't know how to deal with their emotions, and you can see the ones who are manipulating the
Yeah,
emotions.
absolutely.
And,
Yeah.
that's a different conversation. But
Oh, yeah.
again, were they taught to do anything different? I don't know.
No.
But here's the thing, you are out and you've been out for a while. You
Yeah.
should have a better sense of humanity. So I have a little bit more judgment there.
Yeah, I do
Um,
too. For the ones that yeah. And you can
Yeah,
tell
because
the ones that are
you know what you're doing. You know what
yeah,
you're doing.
absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
the ones who are just sort of wilding out or have it, and I'm just like, bless, just turn off the camera. It's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Just turn off the camera.
Mm.
And I'm like,
Indigo
where are
said
your
this too.
friends?
I stopped following a lot of people because I saw harmful patterns repeat and I didn't want to enable that behavior.
That's correct.
Like I got glue
Yeah,
on
I
my
had to stop
face.
watching. Not that I don't want to watch them because I actually value many sides of the coin.
Oh, I do too.
In terms of how they think, right? Because to not to say, well, that's not how I think about it. Well, how can we learn
Mhm.
about people and how do we learn about these things and how do we stop this pattern unless we listen to all
Mhm.
sides of the facet, right? Just because I don't agree with somebody doesn't mean I'm not going to listen to what they say. Now I don't have to
Yeah,
comment on their stuff. I don't have to, but it gives me a perspective of how screwed up this really is,
I know.
which
That
means
is true.
I that is also a reminder of, hey, we got to stop this, right? That's a
Mhm.
reminder to me of look at what this
Oh,
creates.
absolutely. You know, I
And
used to just, like, really dislike Scientology, and I didn't think that it needed to have its tax exemption and all that. But honestly, the more of the former Scientologist drama, that I see, the more I have become like, "We've got to shut this down." Not just take their tax exemption and hopefully it'll go away in a few years. No, we need to shut this down because this is if I don't understand how people like in any kind of power, any kind of lawmakers and all that, all they would have to do is just watch a couple hours of YouTube.
it doesn't matter which one. Click on one.
One, exactly.
It doesn't, and that's what I'm saying. It doesn't matter. There's these camps and there's division, and
Yeah.
watch one of them. Their
Yeah.
life is in chaos.
Yeah.
I mean, and I will say, there's one I can think of who shut the camera off. And
Yeah.
again, it seemingly looks like they have their life together behind the scenes. So who am I to say if they do or don't, right? Because I
Yeah.
don't know them. But what I'm saying is while they're trying to figure out their own grief in some ways, and while they're trying to navigate that and get back into work, whatever, like the most stable one went dark. I'm like, any of them,
The ones that
Congress,
are the most, like,
any of
calm are the
them.
ones that really don't go on camera that much. The ones that
That's what I'm
stay away from the cameras are the ones that seem to be the
that's
most
my point.
adjusted. I'm not saying
That's my point.
healed, but adjusted.
Well, and
They
they're the ones that are most attacked, which is
yeah,
awful. And
yeah,
it's because the ones who are living in peril don't recognize them anymore.
yeah,
And it's because they don't relate to them anymore. Well, now
mhm,
you're not one of us anymore.
yeah,
Again,
yeah.
they're still in a group think as well
Oh, yeah.
in terms of
Mm,
all that. And that breaks my heart instead of learning from that of, hey, what can I gain from this human? Because they seem like they're doing at least better than me, right? But again,
yeah,
that's what I learned. That's my takeaway.
mhm,
I have learned to be like, hey, I've this is my set of this is my bag of issues, right? Here's
Yeah.
what I'm, and I present that up front. Like, my first dates are not a good time, if that makes sense. I'm like, I'm gonna throw out everything at you because
I'm
if you
glad
still
that
stay,
whenever I left our church that my husband I was already married and he came with me. I don't have to explain anything. I don't have
that's what I'm
to.
saying. Yeah. And imagine somebody like me having to, but I'm
Yeah.
like, you know what? I'm not the type to make you fall into something, and because you fell for me, now you feel like you have to deal with this because that leads to
Yeah.
resentment. I'm gonna put it
Yeah, if
on the
this is
table
gonna
up
be an
front.
issue, let's get it an issue day
That's
1
right.
and be over it.
Because I'm gonna tell you exactly, and I'm gonna tell you I have a
Mhm.
brother with Down syndrome. He's gonna be living with us in the end. If you decide that
Yeah.
this is what you want, I'm just
Yeah, if
gonna
you
tell
can't
you
handle
because
that.
I'm coming with a lot. So,
Yeah. Well, I think
and
anybody that is past about 30, they got some baggage. I don't care,
yeah.
and so I it's a whole other thing from what I can
Oh,
see from,
absolutely.
my friends and stuff that have dated after that age. And
Yeah.
even whenever Mark and I were dating, I mean, I pretty he which we knew each other before we started dating, so we kind of already knew each other's baggage,
Yeah.
knew each other's exes kinda deal. It was like,
Exactly.
"Woo, you got it worse than I do."
That's right. Yeah.
So,
There's
but yeah.
I will say dating a friend always kind of helps because they're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, you already know my specific kind of nuts. Great."
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
I don't
that's
have to explain
true.
anything. Or if it's somebody who, like, there was somebody who I dated who I grew up with along in the Amways, like he was a
Yeah.
part of the same and went to the school and went to the church, and
Mm.
I'm like, I don't have to explain anything to you. You get it,
Yeah.
And so, I mean,
Mm.
familiarity is a lot in a lot of ways of how people are drawn to each other. And I will say, I can say that for the Scientology community.
Oh, yeah.
Familiarity
Oh, yeah.
is their bond because it's a specific
Mhm.
kind of trauma. It's a specific Nobody understands that specific kind of
Yeah.
crazy better than them. I
Oh, I
mean,
know.
but it's like a moth to a light, right? It's
Mhm.
you're like, oh,
In some ways,
get
they're
off,
great for each other, and in some ways, they're absolutely, you know,
awful.
catastrophic for each other. It's
Yeah, you got to get off the
gosh.
horse. Like at some
Yeah.
point, I mean,
Yeah.
and again, I don't want to go into specifics, but yeah, it's you gotta. The definition of insanity is doing the
Yeah.
same thing over and over and expecting a different result, right?
Absolutely.
And I embody that. I don't watch them do the same.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's unfortunate. And and some prescribe by therapy, some don't, and some are questioning what therapy are you in, right? And then some were
Yeah.
like, we just need you to be in some kind of therapy.
Yeah, just anything, get something.
Just anything. And you're like, for the love. But
Uh,
again, turn off the camera for
yeah.
just a scotch until you
Yeah.
can work, or during the hard times, right? Like,
Yeah.
don't, again, thank you for showing. There's a difference in showing your struggle, right? Like, I
Yeah.
show my friends my struggle. They know my struggle.
Yeah.
But those are the people who know me best. They
Mhm.
know who I am.
Yeah.
There's no judgment there. They know what I'm dealing with. And
Absolutely.
those are the people that you need to lean on. They're leaning on the chat to fuel
Yeah.
their, and that is superficial. No
Yeah.
offense to chat. Love you guys. But
Yeah, but it is.
it's a
I mean,
superficial
especially
relationship.
whenever I mean, like, my chat, I pretty much we have the same people all the time, and that's
Right.
great. But some of these others, that's just like and this is completely off topic, but not at the same time, the whole deal with this, Nancy Guthrie thing that's going on,
Yeah.
and all of the YouTubers that are doing stuff, and for the most part, I really believe that the majority of the YouTubers are trying to just tell what is, the official
The
stuff.
facts.
But if
Yes.
you watch the chat is like, they're they this they were going on
Yeah.
and on and on about whenever they pulled over that Land Rover the other night. They said that one of
Yeah.
these YouTubers actually watched some guy in the Land Rover unalive himself, and he was like, really having a hard time. And let's get a GoFundMe for this guy. None of that happened,
Right.
but
Well, and I will
it was some of
say,
the chat.
we all watched William Good do, and I'll name drop there. We all watched William Good start to speak crap to his chat because he was like, stop
Yeah,
He's like,
Yeah.
stop. Because remember, the chat would be like, oh, so and so is being,
Yeah.
swatted here. And then he would go thinking, because it was
Yeah.
happening on a massive level, right?
Yeah.
And so he
Of
was
course.
running. And then he's like, okay, whoa. And he got a hold of it and was
Yeah.
like, no, stop.
That's
I'm
what we
not going,
need is we need more
right?
William Goods
Right.
that
You
are
have
like
to,
going, "Knock this shit off," you know?
that's right. And it's because he was a never in, right? Because he has
Yeah.
a clear head
Yeah.
of a point of clarity.
Yeah.
He's living in
Yeah,
the,
because he don't even take any crap off of the ex-Scientologists. He don't take it off of anybody. He's just like,
no, he
I'm like, "I
doesn't.
am a good girl.
Yeah.
I'm a
And,
good
and, and,
girl."
and he's like, most of y'all I talk shit about,
Yeah.
he's like, chat, I'm horrible to y'all. I don't care. Like,
Yeah.
and then all the ladies are like, you can talk to me. And I'm like, this guy is literally
Mhm.
saying F you to you guys. And it's
I
the
know.
funniest thing. But he's like, stop doing. I mean, he will
Yeah.
literally get,
But
he's
I
like, I will.
respect that, though. I respect
That's
that.
but and he will say, I will. I mean, basically, he dads them. He was like, I will turn this car around. I will shut this off.
Yeah.
Like, he was like, you want access to this? I will. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna hit stop. You want me to hit
Yeah.
stop on the
Well,
recording?
because he can
Because
do his thing without a chat. He don't
he
need that chat. I mean,
doesn't. He
yeah.
doesn't give one iota. But again, this is not how he makes his money. He makes his money elsewhere. He does
Yeah.
this to cast a light
Yeah.
on issues. And again,
Yeah.
I do see that with some of the Scientologists of so much of this fueling of whatever is
Yeah.
because it is their source of income, as
Yeah.
opposed to, which is why they feel like they can't back away, or why they feel
Mhm.
like they can't shut it down, or feel like why
Mhm.
they can't take a step
Well,
back,
it's the same thing
or
with me, whenever there for a while, I was, kind of partaking a little bit in some of the drama. I would I didn't go look for it, but if it came looking for me, I wouldn't turn it away.
oh, no,
I would
get it.
answer back. And so I was making not anything compared to what some of them are making. But, I was making some pretty good money for a while there. And then whenever I just was like going, but I don't like this. I don't need this money. I don't, and I don't make hardly anything anymore, but I am so much happier. I sleep
That's right.
better, you know,
Yeah,
and it is so much nicer. And I don't run from drama. If something happens, I say I'm not going to do like unnecessary drama. Now, if there is something that needs to be said, I'm going to say it,
that's right. And that's
but
me.
I'm
I'll
not
show
going
the
to.
comment section
Yeah.
like nobody's business. Like if I hear something, and again, there's some of which I don't watch hardly any
Yeah.
anymore. And I kind of rely on certain ones of you to bring that to my attention. Because if I were to watch their content, I'd be in the comment section all the time because I got a lot to say. And it's healthier
I
for
don't
me
watch
to
it because
not
I'd be in the
listen.
jail.
You ain't lying. And so because my mouth, there's not,
Mhm.
listen, I'm off the Adderall at night. I can
Mhm.
wild out on certainly two of them streams. But otherwise, there I only comment when I see, because there is somebody controversial I listen to, and again for the different perspective of look at what this is doing to this human. More
Absolutely.
importantly, if this is this person's line of work, I don't want to give them that view because of what they're creating, but also maybe if they just had enough, then they
Mhm.
would kind of stop, if you will, like
Yeah.
get them over the hump, so
Yes.
that maybe they could go on to other things. So
Yeah.
I struggle with that. But
Yeah.
I've literally only commented on that person's, and it's literally in the comments, not in the chat. Um, I think like 3 times,
Yeah. Yeah.
period. But and it's only when I'm like, you know what, I've heard enough. Like,
Mhm.
again, you can
Yeah.
rant all day, and it's the same rhetoric over and over.
Yeah.
But when I saw certain things going on, I was like, heck no. This is where the buck stops. Like, you know what?
Yeah.
Because almost they're creating a cult following too. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I
Absolutely.
feel
I'm
a
not gonna get involved in
responsibility
this. Yeah.
to say, hey, this is a grift situation, like a pure grift
Yeah.
situation. don't donate to this because
Yeah.
this person is in your head
Yeah.
how many hours a day saying the same thing over and over. And I'm like,
I
don't
know.
donate. What are we doing? Right. And so,
Yeah.
but again, it's not like that voice doesn't matter because it does, that
Yeah.
voice
It
matters. And
does.
I want to look at what this cult does, right? They
Absolutely.
created that. And that needs to be a voice. And maybe they'll get there someday. And I hope to see
Mhm.
that, right? Like I
Yeah.
hope that their journey gets there. And that's why I continue to listen to kind of all of them because all I want is to see them all come out on the other side.
Yeah, I know.
I am struggling to see that. And when they had each other, my gosh, they were powerful.
Oh, I know. I know. Well, girl, I'm gonna have to call this for the night, and I really would like to have you on again in the near future.
I'm for it.
I would like to just like maybe do a I've talked about Mark just said weekly. I want to do this thing, and I wanted to have Jan and Carrie on too, where we do
Yeah.
kind of like a lightning round where we talk about just like completely opposite subjects and just kind of talk about what, just talk about them like
Yeah.
completely unrelated to even Scientology or anything. I just mean like world views, like maybe this whole, Nancy Guthrie thing or maybe, whatever.
Yeah.
Just talk about stuff.
Yeah.
I love to get people together and just talk.
Well, I
So,
know a lot about that. I am part of the LawTube community first.
yeah.
So that was my start on YouTube
Yeah.
and I am a very active part of those channels
Mhm.
in more ways than one. But yeah, so
Yeah,
those
we'll
are
have to
my
get together and
go-tos.
talk about some of those subjects. So,
Yeah, I'm a wealth of knowledge there.
well, good. We will definitely get together, but I really do appreciate you coming on. We've been on for almost
Absolutely.
2
Thank you for having me.
hours, so I'm gonna go ahead and call it. But
Yeah,
thank you so much. I really enjoyed talking to you, and I'm gonna let you go, but I will probably email you tomorrow, and we'll be setting up what we're gonna do next. So,
perfect. That
all
sounds
right.
great. Thank you so much for having
Oh,
me. I
no
always
problem. Thank
like
you
I'm so
so
appreciative
much.
of
I
you
really
listening
enjoyed
and
it. It's good getting to know you.
absolutely. Thanks, chat, for listening to my story. I appreciate you guys.
So, I have learned so much from her. I've always, seen her around and everything, and I really enjoyed the live that we did last week. If you have not seen that, I will try to remember to go link that in the description, or just go to my channel. It was probably one of the very last ones that I did before tonight. So go ahead and catch that one if you didn't see it, and then if you so inclined, you can send us some information, send us some topics that you want us to talk about. I'd like to get a bunch of us together, and I really want to have at least a one or two a week where we have like a panel of different people and we just talk about different stuff. And like I said, maybe even a rapid fire kind of deal. So, you know, I don't know, talk about 3 or 4 different subjects in one live even. So, I'm going to go. Going to It's getting late, but my husband brought home some dinner, so I'm going to go eat that and I can't remember. I have a session with Hamina tomorrow. So she's going to do some kind of an angel reading or something with me. So I'll have to let y'all know how that goes too. So anyway, I love you guys. Thank you so much for being here. And I will see you either tomorrow or the next day. For sure, I'm going to be on Sunday. So if I don't see you before then, I'll see you Sunday. Talk to you guys later. Bye. Oops.
Hope you enjoyed the show, so glad you were here. We meet here most days, we're but first coffee and you're welcome here. We talk about hard subjects, but we also laugh a lot. If you have a loss or win, we will cheer for you. We're but first coffee, and you are safe here. So hit those like and subscribe buttons, notifications set to all. those like and subscribe buttons, notifications set to all. You don't wanna miss a show, because this is your home to y'all. So hit those like and subscribe buttons,